Hey everybody, this is my first attempt at making the famous liver sausage. My mom, Karen Page, my grandmother, my Aunt Beverly, their cousin, Jack Neumiller, they were all pretty famous for making this. Everybody had a little slight variation. I'm actually using the famous Jack Neumiller recipe. I'm going to make a little bit of modifications to it. I'm only going to do a half batch this time, see how it goes. The ingredients are actually pretty simple. There's pork, beef, liver, salt, flour, pepper, cloves, sage, and allspice. That's about it. So basically I took the meat. I didn't get any video of me chopping up the meat, but cut the pork and the beef into small cubes. I don't know, probably 3/4 to 1 inch little chunks. Threw them in a stock pot. The liver, it's raw beef liver. I just use a roast for the beef and the pork. The liver is raw beef liver. It came pre-sliced, frozen from the grocery store. I just threw the slices in the pot and gonna boil that right along with the rest of the meat. My mom used to leave the liver raw, and then once you cook all the meat, and I'll get to this, but you put it in a blender or a food processor, you grind it up to a real runny mush almost. You use some of the stock or the juice that comes from the boiling operation. Excuse me, allergies kicking my butt. But the liver she would put in there raw and just kind of almost puree it. I don't like liver, but raw liver anyway. But I decided to cook it, and it's going to eliminate one step at the end. After I stuff the casings with this mixture, my mom used to take the tubes, the rings, whatever you call it, put it in hot water, not really boil it, but cook it in almost boiling water. I don't know, probably 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm assuming that was just to make sure that the liver was cooked, but I'm gonna pre-cook it and do it a little bit different. So I'm not really following any of these recipes. My cousin Dana Carlson compiled a whole list of variations. One thing that his mother used to make was called scrapple, where they actually take a whole pig head, boil it down, get all the meat off it, and then use that for the ingredients in the sausage. And there's 4 or 5 other variations of this liver sausage. You know, big family, and everybody kind of has their own little twist and variation to it. And I'm probably going to do the same. I'm going to follow pretty much along with Jack Neumiller recipe, make a few modifications here and there. My pork, beef, and liver ratios are a little bit different than what he had, but you know, we'll see what happens. So I put everything in the pot, and I have it boiling right now. Again, I didn't get any pictures of when I was cutting it up, but I put the meat in the pot, covered it with about a ½ an inch of water, brought it up to a good hard boil, and then just kind of turn it down so it's more of a simmer. And I'm going to let it simmer for several hours. And you kind of want it so the meat you're basically just falling apart, like you know, shredded beef, shredded pork, whatever you want to call it. After I do that, I'm going to drain it, put it through a strainer, keep the juice, take the meat, put it in a big bowl, just put it in the fridge overnight. It's already about 8:30, whatever. I'm going to boil this probably till about 10 o'clock, get it good and tender, drain it out, keep the juice, because I'm going to need that for later on in the process, and put the meat in the fridge and hit it hard in the morning, and hopefully I get some, hopefully I'll be able to actually get some video of mixing the concoction together, putting it into the sausage stuffer, stuffing the casings, and coming up with the final product. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so the meat has been cooking for probably 2.5 hours, and I think it's pretty much ready to go here. I'm going to pull out a couple of pieces, see how it shreds here. So here's some pork. Ooh, taut. Oh yeah, see, it just wants to fall right apart. I believe this is, yeah, this is a piece of the beef. Oh yeah, I think it's good. The liver is still in pretty big chunks, but it's falling apart as well. So that should grind up real nice in the morning as well once it's cool. Because I want to save this juice, because that's what I'm going to use to re-liquefy it. look at that nice meat juice stock, whatever you want to call that. All right, so I'm going to put this in a big bowl, put it in the fridge. I'm also going to put the juice in the fridge. It's got some fat in it, obviously, so some of it's going to coagulate. Ooh, that's a big word. Solidify, whatever you want to call it, which is fine. We actually want a little bit of fat in the mixture because once I kind of turn this into a puree, almost a liquidy consistency, we're actually going to add flour to it, stiffen it up a little bit. Still going to be pourable, which I'll demonstrate all that, so we can pour it into the funnel, get it into the sausage stuffer, and fill up the casings. So I'm going to transfer all this to the fridge and call it a night, and I will see you guys back in the morning. Alright, so I am back for day 2 of my liver sausage making adventure. It's a little before 6 o'clock in the morning, and in a little bit after my coffee kicks in, of course, I'm going to start prepping and grinding the meat. And that's the part that the recipe from Jack and my mom and everybody else is a little bit vague, and it tells you to use liquid to mix in with the meat to kind of give it a runnier consistency, but it doesn't really tell you how much liquid. The original recipe, the full recipe, also called for 20 cups of flour to get mixed in with this, which I think is a little bit extreme, but so I'm doing half a recipe, which would mean 10 cups, but even at that, I'm probably only going to do half of that, and we'll see how it goes. But you can see I had the meat in the fridge overnight. It's kind of hard, but it's gonna soften up a little bit, and it crumbles real easy, so it should grind up. And all the juice and the broth, you can see there's still a little bit of fat floating on the top of it, which is fine. It's not ridiculous, and I think that fat is actually going to be an essential part of making once I mix in the flour and all the juice, kind of help it set up and firm up a little bit. It'll kind of act as a bonding agent with all that flour. So, all right, I'm going to sip my coffee, and I'm going to hit it hard. All right, so I'm actually going to reheat this juice and broth a little bit, get that fat to just kind of melt down and mix in a little bit with the rest of the juice. Ugh, it kind of looks nasty, doesn't it? Well, all right, let me turn on that burner, heat that up for a little bit, and get it all mixed in, and that way I can add it to the meat as I'm grinding it. And once I get everything all ground up, then I'll start mixing in the flour and hopefully get the right consistency. And again, I'm just kind of winging it here. As Dana and I were talking yesterday, and unfortunately, all the people that really know how to make this stuff are no longer with us. So I'm kind of winging it, and hopefully I get it right. And I don't think there's a wrong way to make it, but some people have different preferences on the spices and the consistency thereof. So, you know, we'll play around, see what happens. All right, so I have reheated the broth just enough to, you know, make sure that all the fat and stuff is kind of melted right back in with the juice. So I'm going to pour that back into the bowl, and I'm just going to dip out of that with, you know, measuring cup, and mix it in with the meat as I'm grinding it up in the blender. All right, so I got about 1 cup of meat here. Let's throw that in the blender. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with 2. I think I got plenty of room in there. All right, so that's about 2 cups of meat. Let's throw another half a cup in there. See how that looks. I think that's pretty good. As you can see, it's kind of nasty looking. It's almost like, I don't know, right now it's about the consistency of like applesauce, which I think is probably all right. Eventually I might actually make it a little bit thinner than that even, because I will be adding the flour which is going to help solidify it a little bit. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to dump it back into the stock pot. Alright, I'm going to reload. Try this again. Alright, so I think maybe 1.5 cups of juice for 2 cups of meat, I think is going to be about the trick here. There we go. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Am I? Yeah, that's pretty good. Again, I'm almost making it liquid, making like a puree type of a deal. And then once I add the flour, again, it's going to thicken up quite a bit. All right, either I am just that good or I got pretty lucky, but my quantity of meat and juice worked out almost perfectly. I had exactly 2 cups of meat left over, and I had exactly 1.5 cups of juice left over. And I think the consistency is pretty good. So let me grind up this one, and then I'm going to start adding some flour. All right, so I think I was forgetting an important step, is the seasonings, the spices. I'm going to add this, mix it all in with the meat, get it good and blended before I start adding the flour. Again, the full recipe, Jack's full recipe, was calling for 5 tablespoons of allspice. So obviously half of that is going to be 2.5. Add 5 tablespoons of pepper, so I made 2.5. 6 tablespoons of sage, so I'm actually put 3 in my mixture. 4 tablespoons of cloves, so I only used 2. And 1 cup of salt, so I used 1/2. Again, the original recipe calls for 20 cups of flour, but I think 20 cups is a lot, and that's going to be way too much, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this stuff right in. Get it mixed around real good. Just put everything in a bowl and dump it in one shot. Yeah, you can see it is still pretty soupy and sloppy, so I'm definitely going to have to add some flour. I don't know how much. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near the 10 cups, which would be the half recipe, but I'm probably going to start, well, I don't know, maybe put 2 cups, stir it around, see how it is. Add another cup, just kind of keep adding it till I get to where I need it. So it's fairly thick, but still pourable is going to be the key. And I think, again, I don't think there's any magic recipe or exact quantity of flour. You know, again, the old people like my mom, Beverly, Jack, my grandma Knight, they just did it so many times. They just knew what it was supposed to look like and how it was supposed to be. And again, unfortunately, I don't have any of those people around to make a phone call and pick their brain and find out the secrets. So trial and error. And you know, again, with the quantities of the seasonings here, I know like the sage, a lot of people say that Jack, he didn't like that much sage in it. My mom probably did. You know, so there's going to be personal preference. Hopefully I kind of nail it down close to what I grew up eating, and it turns out pretty good. But okay, so I got that blended pretty well. Now I'm going to get set up, and I'm going to start putting in some flour and getting it mixed around. Alright, so I'm going to start adding the flour, and I'm just using plain old white flour. Again, there's a lot of variations on this recipe, and some recipes call for using cornmeal instead of flour. Some are only flour, some are a combination, you know, a 40-60 split on the cornmeal and flour. But, you know, again, I think this is one of those, just a matter of personal preference. All right, I'm going to definitely start with 3 cups and see how that looks. See how the consistency is when I get it stirred in. All right, I think 3 is not enough. So I'm going to just do it 1 cup at a time from here on. I have a feeling that when I get around that 5, maybe 6 cup mark, I think I'm probably going to be okay. Again, you want it somewhat pourable, but you don't want it runny either. Okay, so that's 4. Go 1 more, 5, and see how that does. You know what, I'm going to go with 1 more cup of flour. And I think if I ever got it to the point where it was a little too thick and it wouldn't pour, I don't think it would be the end of the world if I just added a little bit of water to it to loosen it up. Since a lot of that juice from the meat is just water anyway. Alright, so that was 5. Alright, so that's 6 cups. You know, again, this is the part that, you know, unless you've done this your whole life, which I have not, you know, the experienced people that used to do this all the time, they would know exactly what this consistency should be like. So it's pourable into the sausage casings. Alright, so the sausage casings I'm using, I actually picked these up at Bass Pro Shop. Home pack hog casings, which is basically their intestines. I think it's the small intestine. This particular size is the 32 to 35 millimeter diameter, minimum length. Well, it's at least 50 feet of casing here. Alright, so I have soaked the casing for the appropriate amount of time. I kind of unraveled, I guess it's a bunch of small pieces, and the first piece I pulled out is, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 feet long. So I'm going to rinse the inside of it. I actually tied a knot in the other end of it already. But if I remember, yeah, just kind of flow some water through it. Alright, so that is the first casing. Let's set this out of the way. Now, what I'm going to do is open up this end and feed it onto the nozzle of my stuffing tube. This is just a little cheapy stuffing tube. I picked it up on Amazon for like 12 bucks or something. I know my mom used to just pour it into a funnel and let it just kind of gravity feed into the casing. But I'm all by myself, and I don't know, kind of have a feeling that's a multi-person operation. Alright, so let's see how this works here. So I'm just gonna kind of milk it. I don't know if I'll get all 6 or 7 feet on here. I probably should. This stuff doesn't take up a lot of space here. I had a feeling this was going to be a little bit of the challenge here. Okay, there it is. A little bit of work to it, but I think I got it figured out toward the end. So the next one or several I'd have to do should be a little bit easier. You can see I got a little knot tied in it, a little tail right there. So now what I'm going to try here. When I say try, I'm going to fill up the stuffing tube. Got my meat mixture here. I don't know if it's going to want to flow naturally down there. It might be a little too thick for that, I don't know. But I actually have this wooden dowel. It's just about the right size. Hoping I can force it down into the stuffing tube. And then when I push the plunger, then it should force the goods into the casing. So that just screws into there, or pushes into there, cap screws on. Got a little bit of air in the end of it, but not too bad. So now I'm just going to push on the plunger. Alright, so I think I'm almost to the end of this first casing here. Had a little trouble early, but now it seems to be going okay. Much better than the first time. I realized you gotta kind of pull it out on here and hold it relatively centered on the nozzle so it kind of pulls on evenly. Okay, time for sausage number 2. Okay, here we go. I'm just using my bicep here to push on the plunger when I hold the end of the stuffing device with the fingers here. Seems to work out all right. All right, success on the first round. All right, so this is the finished product. Well, not 100% finished product, but after I'm done, I've got all done stuffing the tube. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split these up into more portion sizes. I love liver sausage, but I'm not going to be able to eat a big, like that whole ring over there. I'm not going to be able to eat all that in one sitting. So basically just kind of pinch it and give it a little twist. And then eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie string, like 2 strings on either side of the twist, and then kind of cut it apart. And that way I can wrap it all, and I'm probably just going to use like this white freezer paper. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just wrap these up in freezer paper. Piece of tape on that, and then I am going to label it with the date. I think in the freezer it'll stay for quite a while. I mean, obviously, you know, you won't want to let go years, but I think 6 months or more, it should probably be okay without getting too freezer burnt. All right, now it's almost time for the moment of truth. So what I do, I cut a piece off, I don't know, 3 inches long, maybe something like that. Start the burner. Kind of fairly hot burner. I'm going to put it on about medium. And I just like to throw in a little bit of butter. There we go. And then I take the liver sausage. I basically just slice it in half lengthwise, like this. And once the pan gets hot, smear around some butter here. It might be a little too much, but There's no such thing, not according to my mother anyway. She was a big fan of using butter on just about everything. Okay, so then the liver sausage about like yay, kind of cook it until it gets kind of crispy and brown on one side. Ooh, look at that. Nice and brown and crispy on one side. Flip it over. I'm gonna go start my toast. Okay, I think it is ready. Crispy and brown on both sides. Oh yeah. Alright, this is the moment of truth. The ultimate moment of truth. I'm going to give it a shot. So the way I do it, I don't think there's any right or wrong way, but remember how it was all kind of mushy? Well, it's crispy on the outside. I basically just take my fork, kind of smear it a little bit around my toast like that. It's already got plenty of salt in it. And plus, I have a heart condition, so I'm not supposed to have a lot of salt. Normally, I would add a little bit of salt and pepper to it, but I'm going to try it like this. We'll see what happens. Here we go. You know what? I think there might be a new sheriff in town. Well, yeah. This is every bit as good as I remember it. It's probably been 25 years last time I had it when I helped my mom. The only time I ever helped my mom make it. Oh yeah, I think I nailed it. All right. I'm not going to make you guys suffer watching me eat this whole thing, but I'm definitely going to eat this whole thing and probably make a couple more pieces. So, that's about it. At the end of this, I'll post the actual ingredients, the quantities that I used, kind of maybe a little bit of a step-by-step. I explained it in a video, but maybe just do a little written description of the whole process and quantities of ingredients, whatever. And Mom and Grandma and Aunt Beverly and Jack and whoever else used to make this. If you're looking down on me, I hope you're smiling and proud, keeping the family tradition alive and making some good old liver sausage. See ya.